What do you do when the boy who locked you in a basement grows up thinking he got away with it? I met Kyle in 7th grade and stupidly fell for him when he offered me the last red popsicle with a shy smile and a shrug, saying he thought girls who read books during recess were cool. So when he invited me to his birthday party and I heard our names chanted during a round of 7 minutes in heaven, I thought maybe this was going to be the start of our love story. My hands were sweating, my heart was racing, and when Kyle took my hand in his and gave me that crooked little smile I loved, I followed him to the basement door without hesitation. He leaned in close and asked me to close my eyes, promising it would be fun. I stood there with my heart pounding and butterflies fluttering in my stomach as I waited in the dark, eyes squeezed shut and half expecting to feel his lips touch mine. Instead, I heard a click, followed by the unmistakable sound of footsteps moving away, and when I opened my eyes, I was alone in pitch black. At first, I laughed nervously and called his name, reaching around with both hands thinking he was playing a prank and still nearby. But the silence stretched, and when I carefully climbed the stairs and tried the knob, it didn't budge. Then I heard his voice mocking me through the door, telling the others how gullible I was, and how my voice sounded like a whining little girl, how he could never like a weird girl like me. When I begged to be let out, someone giggled. Then I saw Kyle's sneakers stop in front of the door crack before pillows were stuffed into the gap, smothering the light and the last bit of air. My lungs began to sting since it was pretty cold down there, and when they shouted from the other side that they were lowering the thermostat just to see what would happen, I knew this wasn't a joke anymore. Someone laughed about ghosts in the basement and rats that like to nibble toes. I sat frozen in a corner, clawing at the walls until my nails bled, leaving streaks and gouges in the drywall. 3 hours felt like 3 days, and by the time Kyle's parents returned home and noticed I was missing, my voice was gone from screaming and my body shook so hard I could barely stand. Kyle's mother handed me a crisp bill and told me to keep quiet. After that night, I stopped sleeping with the lights off, avoided dark spaces, and took the stairs instead of elevators no matter how high the floor. My fear soon turned into anger. Over the years, I watched Kyle grow taller and louder, coasting through high school with the same smug grin, laughing in the faces of girls who cried after him. He preyed on girls like it was his birthright. Once, I even saw him use his full strength into slapping his girlfriend, making her nose bleed as she fell on the concrete. Something in me hardened that day, and it didn't feel like fear anymore. It felt like purpose. Then one afternoon, I overheard him bragging to his teammates in the locker room that his parents were gone for the entire weekend. I knew that was the perfect opportunity for me, so I devised a plan. I already knew his routine by then and knew that after football practice, he always poured a glass of cola before his shower. So I crushed 3 sleeping pills into a fine powder and stirred them in without leaving a trace. I stood nearby watching as he took the first sip and yawned while waving goodbye to his friends. I followed slowly to his house, careful to stay far enough behind, and watched him fumble with the key. When the lights inside turned on, I slipped in through the back, moved to the hall closet, and waited. When I finally heard Kyle snoring, I stepped out and saw him sprawled across the couch in deep sleep. I dragged his body down to the basement. Then I zip-tied his wrists and ankles, shoved an old shirt deep into his mouth, and wrapped thick headphones over his ears to deprive him of all senses. I turned off every light and left the door cracked just enough for the air to echo with the sound of his panic once he woke up. I listened to those muffled screams for 3 hours, and when that time was up, I wiped down every surface I had touched, making sure no one knew I was ever here, before leaving his house without a trace. On Monday morning, Kyle returned to school looking pale with dark circles under his eyes, unable to speak. He jumped at the sound of slamming lockers, flinched when someone brushed against his shoulder, and ignored everyone, including teachers. A week later, he stopped coming altogether, but I wasn't done. I mailed him a small box with no return address that contained a broken watch with the hands stuck at 7 minutes.